Hello, friends, and welcome to Live from the City Opera House. It's Storytime. I'm your host, Ben Whiting, and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. right here, we're going to have a great story read by a special guest and then have a really fun activity that you can participate in right from home. I'm going to tell you the supplies you need for today's activity, but if you'd like to know the supplies in advance for future shows, you can download our activity worksheet on our website or visit us on social media. Now, we all know that when we have friends who help us out, it's important to thank them. And we want to thank some of the friends who've made this show possible. That includes Traverse City Area Public Schools, Newton's Road, Tattle, the City Opera House, and of course, our series underwriting sponsor, Bell Tire. Thank you so much from the bottom of our heart for helping us out with this show. Now, today's book is Hedy Lamarr's Double Life. And this is a really exciting book. If you have ever used a phone, a tablet, or a computer, Hedy Lamarr created some of the technology that makes those safe and kind of unhackable. She was also a really famous actress, so she kind of had two lives. She's also often referred to as the mother of Wi-Fi. And in honor of some of her achievements, today's activity is going to be creating our very own communication device. And to do that, you're going to need 2 to 3 clean tin cans, a length of string, and a nail hammer that you can poke a hole in the cans with. Of course, we want to make sure an adult helps us out with that part. Now, I'm also excited to introduce our special guest who's going to be reading the story today. Mrs. Kimmee Wenkel, who is also an actress at our local Old Town Playhouse, but she's also the co-founder and executive director of Cognition, a science museum and activity center based in Beulah, Michigan. Miss Kimmee, take it away.
I am about to read to you this Hedy Lamarr's Double Life. And this book speaks volumes to me because I feel like I had a double life for a while. I was a teacher at a church, I have 4 kids, and a little hobby farm with donkeys and everything, and was on the brink of an idea myself. And my mom encouraged me and helped me, much like Hedy's got a helper and encourager in this story, and followed this idea and saw it through. And now I have a new job and a really cool science and discovery center, which also relates to this story. There is a lot of inventing and discovering and learning new ideas in Hedy's story. Also, an interesting thing is this story takes place when my grandparents were about my age. And it's amazing to think Hedy comes up with an idea that connects to our cell phones and the internet and that we use today, but really her idea came from back when my grandparents, that's like your great-grandparents, were young adults. So let's dive into our story. Hedy, was she an actor? Dazzling looks, famous face, many fans, adored, stylist, glamorous, or an inventor? Reference books, workshop space, secret plans, ignored, scientist, curious. Who was the real Hedy Lamarr? Hedy Lamarr's Double Life is told to us by Lori Walmark, and it's illustrated by Katie Wu. Hedy Lamarr led a double life. The public knew her as a glamorous movie star, famous throughout the world, but in private, Hedy was a brilliant inventor, a fact known only to her closest friends. Hedy's greatest invention was the technology known as frequency hopping spread spectrum. That's a tongue twister. This is the scientific breakthrough that helps keep our cell phone messages private and defends our computers from hackers. Without Hedy's revolutionary idea, the electronic devices we use every day would be more open to attack. Cameras flashed. The glamorous movie star stepped out of her limousine and onto the red carpet. Everyone who was anyone in Hollywood was there. The star-studded premiere of her first English language movie, Algiers, was the social event of 1938. Journalists and photographers crowded around her. If they only knew her story, the true story behind the world's most beautiful woman. Hedy once said, "People seem to think because I have a pretty face, I'm stupid. I have to work twice as hard as anyone else to convince people I have something resembling a brain." The Hollywood legend had no interest in a glitzy lifestyle. Her passion was science and engineering. Hedy converted her fancy parlor into an inventor's workshop, complete with tools, a drafting table, and many well-thumbed technical books. After long days of acting, Hedy hurried home to work on her latest invention. Her brain overflowed with idea after idea for useful inventions. Though Hedy never tried to sell any of these inventions, that didn't stop her from working to make her designs the best they could be. Hedy said, "Inventions are easy for me to do. I suppose I just came from a different place." Here's some of the things she invented. Thirsty travelers. Hedy made Flavor Cube that changed plain water into soda. A device to help people in and out of the bathtub. Lost pets. She designed a glow-in-the-dark dog collar, an accordion fold pocket on tissue boxes, and a new traffic signal that would indicate when the light was about to change. Even as a child in Austria in the early 1920s, Hedy's curious mind wanted to know how things worked. What powered automobiles? Which type of motor worked best in an airplane? How could she improve a machine's design? At age 5, Hedy took apart her music box to examine the mechanism. I love that kind of thinking. She said, "My father had encouraged me by telling me to hold fast to my dream and that if I held fast, it would come true." Hedy's father shared her love of science and technology. During their walks around their hometown in Vienna, Austria, they exchanged ideas about everything and anything, from streetcars to printing presses and even the constellations that dotted the night sky. Hedy wanted to understand the science and technology behind them all. Just think if we all took more time to wonder. Young Hedy was also crazy about motion pictures. Whenever possible, she sneaked off to a movie theater. Returning home, Hedy reenacted her favorite scenes, playing all the parts herself. She constructed a stage for her dolls underneath her father's desk. There, she performed shows for imaginary audiences. Her dolls starred as fairy tale heroes and villains. For real audiences, Hedy acted in school plays and sang at music festivals. Always dreaming, Hedy wanted to escape into the movies. Soon, she got her chance. She said, "All my life, I had loved to play, act, and pretend." Hedy's first job was a script girl at a movie studio in Vienna. When the opportunity came up to be an extra in a movie, Hedy rushed to apply. She won a minor role in a restaurant scene. This bit part, small as it was, gave Hedy her first steps on the road to stardom. Hedy constantly practiced her acting skills. She imitated family, friends, and even people she saw on the street. She mimicked the way people walked and talked. She copied their mannerisms and facial expressions. She said, "I acted all the time. I was a little living copybook. I wrote people down on me." Have you ever acted or pretended to be somebody else? It can be so fun. Before long, Hedy was cast as the lead in a play. She caught the eye of a very famous Hollywood producer, Louis B. Mayer. Impressed by her talent, he offered her a 7-year movie contract. Hedy left her family behind in Europe and settled in America. That is a big move. She has said, "My face has been my misfortune, a mask I cannot remove. I must live with it. I curse it." Here's a picture from a movie poster. It says, "Strange loves hiding in the Casbah city of secrets." Algiers, her first movie. After only 6 months of English lessons, she starred in her first American movie. Mayer thought a glamorous star needed a Hollywood name, so her true name, Hedwig Eva Maria Keisler, became Hedy Lamarr. Imagine changing your name and your country and your language to follow a dream. Hedy went on to star in many well-loved films, including the biblical drama Samson and Delilah and the comedy My Favorite Spy. She acted with some of the most famous movie stars of the time, people like Angela Lansbury, Jimmy Stewart, Judy Garland, and Clark Gable. Hedy was now a major movie star. Those might not be stars that you've heard of, but I know that Jimmy Stewart was one of my grandmother's favorites. The brains of people are more interesting than the looks, I think. That's something Hedy has said. Hedy's movies let people escape the talk of war, if only for a few hours. World War II was raging and everyone was afraid. Nazis had taken over Germany and Nazi soldiers had invaded many other European countries. At a friend's dinner party, Hedy met George Antheil, a composer of modern music. She learned he was also a former weapons inspector. This reminded Hedy of a discussion she had overheard back in Europe about a problem with the guidance system for torpedoes. So interesting that Hedy had this on her mind. One thing that Hedy has said is hope and curiosity about the future seemed better than guarantees. That's the way I was. It's a good philosophy. The guidance system of these torpedoes couldn't prevent the enemy from jamming the weapon's radio signals. Because of this, the enemy could command a torpedo to go off course. That would be disastrous. Hedy asked George if the United States Navy faced a similar problem with their torpedoes. They did. Look at this conversation is spurring her ideas. The two inventors decided to combine their talents and figure out a solution to the problem. During breaks from inventing, they challenged each other with games on the piano. George's hands hopped quickly from piano key to piano key. Hedy's hands flew across the keyboard, matching him note for note on a different octave. With every different key she pressed, a piano wire quickly moved back and forth. The speed of the wire's movement, or its frequency, produced the current note for that key. Hedy said, "Hey, look, we're talking to each other and we're changing all the time." Hedy realized that even though the notes were constantly changing, she and George could still play the same tune. All she had to do was match the notes' frequencies. This gave her an idea. The idea to build a secure torpedo guidance system. I love that playing the piano and combining musical talent inspired the idea for this invention. In the early 1940s, these guidance systems worked like a walkie-talkie, a two-way radio. In order for walkie-talkies to communicate, both handsets must be turned to the same frequency. Like strings in a piano, radio waves between pairs of walkie-talkies have unique frequencies. A pair of walkie-talkies can only communicate when they are set to the same frequency. I hope you've had a chance to play with walkie-talkies. They're super fun, but it's also really cool to learn how they work. I could picture Hedy taking one apart. Torpedo guidance systems used to work like that. The equipment on the ship launching a torpedo and the torpedo itself needed to be set to the same frequency. If the enemy figured out what that frequency was, they could cause trouble. Hedy proposed an improved system, one that worked as if it contained several pairs of walkie-talkies. Each pair would be set to a unique frequency. From moment to moment, the system could switch which pair of walkie-talkies carried the message. This sounds very technical. Hedy said, "The idea just came to me. I never thought of such a thing before and probably never shall again." But she sure explored that idea, and look what becomes of it. It's pretty exciting. Hedy's system didn't actually contain numerous walkie-talkies. Instead, it used a single device that could quickly change frequencies. As long as the device on the ship and the one on the torpedo were tuned to the same frequency at the same time, they could communicate. Hedy called her discovery the hopping of frequencies. I really like that she named it something that makes sense instead of a lofty name that we'll never understand. The hopping of frequencies, and that's just what it did, and it solved a big problem. Hedy and George spent night after night brainstorming ways to implement her idea. Frequency hopping was the most important part of the guidance system they developed. Even if the enemy managed to overhear a part of the message, it didn't matter. The device had already hopped to a new frequency. Unless the enemy knew the frequency being used at the exact moment, they couldn't interfere with the message. How would you like to be an inventor of secret messages, secret code that could save people and help in the war? It's a pretty lofty goal, huh? All right, she said, I explained the basics of the idea and the implementation part came from George. Sounds like she had a good teammate. Hedy and George added another security feature to their systems. It broke messages into pieces and sent them in short bursts. These were so short, the enemy might not even realize a message had been sent. Hedy and George shared their idea with the National Inventors Council, the group that evaluated discoveries for possible military use. The council told them their idea had great potential value and was red hot. It would be so cool to have a red hot idea. Who knows what things you'll think of. Here they are holding up their idea that says secret communication system, and that sounds super cool. Hedy said, all creative people want to do the unexpected. Their system still needed to be automated so it could work without a human at the controls, right? They couldn't put a human inside a torpedo. There had to be some way of making sure that both devices used the same frequency at the same time. Without this, the system would be useless. Hedy remembered George had once arranged for 16 player pianos to play at the same time. Moving rolls of paper with holes punched in them told the pianos which notes to play and when. This reminds me of Hedy's discovery with taking apart a music box, because a music box would work much in the same way. So I wonder if these ideas that she stored by exploring when she was a child are coming back to help her with a problem as an adult. And this is before they had computer chips they could just put into things, so they have to get this message in the torpedoes. In Hedy and George's invention, matching rolls of ribbon on the ship and the torpedo controlled the system. The holes signaled which frequency the system should use at that time. That allowed the transmitter and receiver to change frequencies simultaneously. Improving things comes naturally to me. That was another quote from Hedy. What an amazing idea to always be looking for ways to improve things and make things in your world better. Maybe you should go invent something after this story. After months and months of hard work, Hedy and George finished their secret communication system. They wrote a detailed description of the design and filled out an application for a patent. If the patent was approved, no one could steal Hedy and George's idea. So you get a patent to protect your invention. They sent their patent application to the government. Then they waited and waited and waited. Another quote from Hedy here in the corner says, do good anyway, think big anyway, build anyway. You don't always know if your ideas are going to make it into fruition, but it's good to try. Maybe if one idea doesn't work out, the next one will turn out and it will be even better because of what you've learned. More than a year later, a whole year of waiting, on August 11th, 1942, they received their patent. Frequency hopping, their technology-changing invention, was ready to share with the world. They immediately handed both the idea and the patent to the United States Navy. Hedy was proud of her frequency hopping idea might help America win the war. To have an idea and then to give it to the military to try to do good, to try to save people and help win the war. But what happened was a little frustrating, probably extremely frustrating for Hedy and George. Unfortunately, the Navy had neither the time nor the money to implement a new system during wartime. They refused to develop Hedy and George's invention. Even worse, they classified the technology secret. This prevented anyone, including the inventors, from using it. And there's another quote from Hedy at the top that says, we were now at war, and a terrible time it was. War is a horrible thing, and she did her best to help. Hedy looked for another way to help her adopted country defeat the Nazis. She realized she could use her celebrity to raise money by selling war bonds. Hedy traveled cross-country and held sales rallies. She sold $25 million worth of war bonds. This quote says, I'm here to help win the war. I have 3 grandfathers that fought in World War II. So I can just picture this next scene in the story where they're overseas away from their families and probably sad and scared and tired. And someone like Hedy would come and cheer them up and bring them joy and remind them about home a little bit. This says, Hedy also volunteered at the Hollywood Canteen, a club for American servicemen soon to be sent into battle. To lift their spirits, she chatted and danced with them. By the end of each evening, her feet were sore, but she was happy to have helped the soldiers and sailors. No matter the job that needed to be done, the famous movie star was first in line to lend a hand. She even washed dishes. Friday nights at the canteen became Hedy Lamarr night. When Hedy wasn't busy volunteering or acting, she continued to tinker in her inventor's workshop. More than 20 movies later, Hedy retired from acting. So Hedy had spent time wearing both of these hats as the inventor, but then also using her talent as an actress to help uplift people and bring help to the war efforts. She used both parts of herself to help make the world a better place. 40 years later, the military finally declassified Hedy's frequency hopping technology. The patent had long since expired, so anyone now was free to use this invention. They didn't need to give Hedy or George the credit for their amazing discovery. Companies raced to include frequency hopping in their own devices. This technology can be found inside many of today's most popular electronics. Think of that. We think of this as modern technology, but it's using an invented idea from Hedy and George from over 40 years ago by the time it was used. So ideas can be timeless, can't they? Frequency hopping spread spectrum. Say that 10 times fast. Frequency hopping spread spectrum is the technology that helps keep cell phone calls and texts private. It's the trick that allows secure wireless communications between computers and the internet. And it makes it harder for people to hack drone aircraft. All this was made possible by Hedy's idea, the hopping of frequencies. And it's hard to believe that in her lifetime, there wasn't acknowledgement when it was used all over the world. She said never a letter, never a thank you, or never money. It's hard to see your ideas sit, but she knew now how much it's helped us. She has also said, my life was full of colors, full of life. I don't regret anything. I learned a lot. That's a great philosophy. It wasn't until more than 50 years after their patent was granted that the world recognized the contributions of Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil. In 1997, the inventors received their Pioneer Award from the Electronic Frontier Foundation for their significant contribution to computers. Hedy's response to this great honor? It's about time. This book also has a beautiful timeline so you can see things in order of how they went from when Hedy was born in November 9th, 1914, over 100 years ago, all the way to when she moved to America and when they came up with their invention and some of the other movies she was in, as well as when the war ended. There's some more details in the book about the secrets to the communication system, some of the problems that they had to solve to make it work even better. And there's also a whole list of the films that Hedy Lamarr starred in. It would be really neat to watch her as an actress after learning all about Hedy's life and contributions as an inventor. It makes me realize that you don't have to do just one thing. You can go off and be an actress, but you can also be an inventor at the same time. You could be an artist, and you could also be an engineer. Who knows the different talents, the different interests that you'll combine to do something amazing for the world that you live in. Just don't stop dreaming or thinking or learning or inventing. Thanks for listening to this story today, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Miss Kimmee, for that wonderful reading of the story. And now it's time to take what we read and put it into action with today's activity. And to do that, we have our good friends Anna and Abigail here from Central High's Tech Girls program. Anna, Abigail, how about you introduce yourselves, tell us about the Tech Girls program, and kick us off in today's activity.
Hey, I'm Abigail Paul. I'm a rising senior at Central High School, and I'm a co-president of the Tech Girls program at Central High School.
I'm Anna Paul. I'm a junior at Central High School, and I'm also a member of the Tech Girls program.
Okay, so we are sisters, and that's why we're not wearing masks, but we have them just in case. Some of you may remember us from last week, but for those of you who don't, Tech Girls is a program that works to help young women and minorities pursue their passions for STEM.
Just like Hedy Lamarr, we also sometimes feel like we're living double lives because we're involved in science, math, and technology, but we're also musicians and athletes.
Yeah, just like I'm sure many of you guys are. You might be involved in science or math, but you also might be writers or singers or cooks or athletes, which is awesome.
So today's activity, we're going to be making tin can telephones. They don't take that long to make, but they're really fun when you finish making them.
Yeah, so this is one that we made earlier, and we'll show you how that works a little later. But for now, we're going to teach you how to make your own tin can telephone. So we're going to start off with 2 tin cans. You can use any size, really. We have just regular, like, black bean tin cans. And Anna has a nail and a hammer. And so this part is really important that you work with an adult or an older sibling because it can be dangerous, and we're going to be very careful. So you're going to center your nail. Yeah, on your tin can. Just a little bit more. Yep, until it goes through. And now we have a hole in the center of our tin can. And we need a hole in the other one. So same thing, center your nail. Almost. And it's through. So now we have a hole in the bottom of both of our tin cans. And these are gonna act as like the receiver and the thing that you speak into on a phone. So now we have string. And this is a cotton string, which is the kind you want to use. So Anna's going to take one end, and I'm going to take the other. And what we're going to do is insert it through the bottom of our tin can. Kind of have to get it wet so it goes through. And grab it from the inside. Again, be very careful because tin cans can have sharp edges and you don't want to cut yourself. Then we're going to tie a couple knots in the end of our string.
And make sure you do them over top of each other so that when you put it through, they don't fall through the hole.
Yeah, depending on how big your nail is, your hole in your tin can might be bigger or smaller, and you just want to make sure that your string doesn't go through. So I have tied 4, and I'm going to do a 5th knot right on top of each other. And that way when I pull it through, when I pull it through, it's not going to come through.
Yes, I have a pipe too.
Yeah. So the way this works, the reason that you can speak into it, and Anna will be able to hear me, is that when we speak into it, our voice makes vibrations, and it vibrates the can, and those vibrations get sent down the string. And then Anna will hear those vibrations on the other end, and information will be sent to her brain, and her brain can interpret what I'm saying. So I'll say something, and then a couple milliseconds later, she will hear what I'm saying. Yeah, the cool thing about these is not only do we get to be builders or engineers with them, we also get to be artists and decorate them. So we have some tape here, tape and stickers that we can use to decorate with. And if you do this at home, you can use really anything, not just tape. You can use paper or cover it in string or stickers, or you can take a hot glue gun and glue some things on it. We just have duct tape. Duct tape's kind of easy to use here. So you can see we did some fun patterns with those ones over there. With this one, I'm just going to put blue stripes on it. What are you doing?
I'm taping it.
So these cans, they had labels previously and we've taken the labels off, so they're a little sticky. So this kind of helps to cover up that stickiness so that it's not sticking to stuff when you're using it. So I've done stripes on mine, and now I'm going to take some stickers, and I'll probably just write my name. This is fun if you do this with a lot of your friends, and then you guys can like look at each other's designs and compare what you've done. Oh, you're covering it all.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can see the string that we used it's a fun one. It's not just plain and white. It's blue, and the one we used over there is also blue. These tin can telephones are awesome because you can be in the same room and speak to each other, but you can also go into a different room. Like Anna could be in the lobby and we could put the string through and we'd still hear each other. We've never made these before, right?
No.
I for sure never made them before, but they're actually really fun. Really fun to make and really fun to use. Almost done?
Yes.
Okay, so I am also done. So we're gonna test it out and show you guys. With this one actually. This one has a longer string. Take this. Okay. Anna's gonna go back over there a little bit. Wait, make sure the string's not taken. There we go. And the important part here is that we hold it very taut so the vibrations have something to travel across. So she's gonna hold it up to her mouth and I'm gonna hold it up to my ear.
Can you hear me?
I can. She said, can you hear me? I can hear you.
What?
I can hear you.
My favorite time is reading.
Oh, that's so cool. This is really awesome. And we'll try, I'll hold it up to the microphone and see if you guys can hear. Anna's gonna make sure to pull it taut.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can you guys hear that? It's kind of cool. That's awesome. Okay, that's all we have for you. Thank you so much.
Anna and Abigail, thank you so much for walking us through today's activity. We also want to say thank you one more time to our sponsors for the show, but most importantly, we want to say thank you to you for joining us here today. But we're not finished yet. We want to see how you did with today's activity. So send us a photograph with your name, age, and email it to info@tcaps.net. That's info@tcaps.net. And one of you will be selected to win a free copy of today's book signed by the special guest and yours truly. If you enjoyed today's show, we hope you'll join us every Wednesday at 9 a.m. for our live broadcast. And if you'd like to see some episodes from the past, you can watch them all on demand at www.tcaps247.com. That's TCAPS247.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ben Whiting, and until next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep learning. Take care.